As we enter into 2023, it seems all too easy to feel that we're making real progress in the world. We have smartphones, smart fridges, even smart motorways, sort of. But we also have some really quite outdated old crap in the metaphorical kitchen drawer that could really do with chucking out. One example of which is the House of Lords. But wait, what is the House of Lords? Well, let me tell you. Parliament is made up of two halves. The House of Commons is the elected part, around 650 or so people, and the House of Lords is the other, around 800 people. See, back in the 13th century there was this document thing called the Magna Carta. That's Latin for, hey King John, don't be a total arsewipe, share some of that power with us lot, you absolute fucking space cadet. King John signed it, relinquishing his sole authority and leading to an increase in power for the nobility of Britain. By the time the 14th century rolls in, representatives from communities began to also meet and form a sizable establishment of their own. This was the start of the House of Commons, and henceforth the king had two groups of advisors. Over time, or specifically a few civil wars, more power was won by the Commons at the expense of the Lords. A king was executed, the Church of England lost its death grip on religiosity within the UK, and the amount of lords that inherited their seats were reduced. Truly the best of times. If the fact that it's a 14th century unelected group of religious leaders and merchants isn't immediately getting across how fucking redundant and full of cloistered old bums it is, you need to know that you have three possible ways of entering into the House of Lords. The first is by appointment, which means that they are approved by King Sausage Fingers of EU under the advice of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. The second is official function, which means normally that you have to convince God to get on your side, put on a dress, and read this really weird book. It's really not worth doing this one if you're interested. Lots of red tape, but the Church of England are really hot for it. Or thirdly, you inherit it, which means that you are entirely qualified to affect parliamentary process and impact the lives of millions across the country because Daddy was Viscount of Shroppington upon Heath. So this is kinda just like the royal family, right? Just a kinda stuffy old relic of our country's past that doesn't have the guts to realise the glory days are over and they should do the right thing and commit seppuku outside Buckingham Palace. Well, yeah, except the House of Lords doesn't just sit around doing fuck all and leeching off the public purse, they also have the common decency to shit all over our democracy as well. See, the whole point of the House of Lords is to basically double-check the elected government's spelling. The whole idea here is that if you're not elected by the public, then you're less aligned with party politics and can look at prospective laws with total neutrality. Because obviously if you make millions of pounds being a landlord, you will have no dog in the race when it comes to legislating against rent caps. I know that's how you pause think, but trust me, if there's one thing I've learned in researching the Lords, it's that they're definitely trustworthy and definitely good people. So let's take a look at some of these lords and ladies, shall we? Most recently, and most famously, it has been alleged that one Baroness Mone used her connections within the Tory party to win hundreds of millions of pounds in PPE contracts for a company that she fast-tracked through the application system. MedPro thanked the government by providing absolutely piss-poor equipment that no doubt contributed to the deaths of lots of grannies. While Mone took a leave of absence from the House of Lords, she claims that she gains absolutely nothing from this exchange, but documents have since leaked to show that almost £29 million have been transferred to accounts that she and her husband control. So much for not benefiting from political affiliations. The problems with the Lords has been going on for far longer than just the last year or two though. Some might remember the expenses scandal from 2009 in which the High Court forced a very, very reluctant Parliament to show their expenses claims. One peer claimed almost £50,000 in travel and attendance expenses despite never actually speaking or submitting anything at all. Viscount Douglas Hogg claimed £3,000 for, quote, clearing a moat surrounding his estate, which is the most British thing I've ever heard. One of my own local MPs, Peter Viggers, had to step down in the next elections because of his excessive claims that included £1,645 on a floating duck house. He has not disclosed whether or not he has repaid this claim, but word on the street is that he will soon be receiving a bill. Sorry. I'm sorry. That was all. I'm sorry. Conversely, Sean Woodward has shown the true duality of man by claiming over £95,000 to help pay off his £2 million mortgage, while simultaneously being so scrupulous as to claim 7 pence back from a glue stick he bought in 2006. But you know what they say, Sean Woodward is a cunt. That's what they say, or at least that's what I say. These are some outrageous examples for sure, but not entirely confined to the House of Lords, as many of these people are elected MPs as well. But let's not forget that there are currently around 800 Lords in Parliament, each of which is entitled to over £300 a day in expenses claims just for turning up. You are not required to vote, speak, or engage in questions to claim this allowance. If you're inclined to argue about how little money that is compared to the country's overall wealth, consider that these people are already, at the very least, millionaires, with a few billionaires scattered in there for good measure. Now, the quite obvious argument to be made here is that at least we have the option to vote MPs out if we're unhappy with the work, or lack thereof, that they're doing. With the House of Lords, we have absolutely no say in what they do or what they claim. But hope is not lost. The discussion around the House of Lords being a total pile of cock has been going on for quite some time now, and it's re-entered the public domain after Labour leader Keir Starmer has vowed to abolish the House of Lords if he's appointed Prime Minister of the UK. He has proposed that, in place of an unelected second chamber, we simply have an elected second chamber. Radical stuff, I know. This has been met with staunch opposition by notable figures such as Lord Finchley of Welmont, Baroness Bakewell of Hardington Mandeville, and Baroness Young of Old Scone. One of those names is made up, 2 are very much real. Please let me know in the comments which you think is a load of bollocks. A tenor says you can't. It's worth also noting here that nobody I've mentioned in this video ever actually broke any rules. They claimed these expenses completely legally, and the expenses were approved or denied according to the whim of the people processing the claim. I don't think they should be locked up or anything. It just seems to me fairly obvious that if you give someone the option to claim back £1,450 for a floating duck house, then they would. I mean, God knows I'm still paying mine off. What is clearly needed is urgent reform of this system to make sure it can't be abused. The idea that lobbyists tried to prevent the expenses from being viewed by the public tells you all you should need to know. So look, I know it's easy to complain about the world and get carried away with social justice. I know that people value history and tradition, but there's plenty of history that would do very well to remain just that. While I believe it to be true that the UK is a democracy, I also think that until 100% of our government is accountable to its people, it's just not democratic enough. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please like it and subscribe. It really encourages me to do more of this kind of shit. If you do, you're bloody lovely. And if you don't, you're probably still, fine, you know? You're probably still fine. Love you. Bye-bye.